But the murder marked the beginning of the captain's own downfall. The crew that had once followed him into battle no longer trusted a man willing to spill his own brother's blood for silver. Fear turned into mutiny, the stolen fortune disappeared, and the captain was eventually handed over to colonial authorities, where witnesses exposed his crime. In the end, the treasure was lost. The brother was never avenged at sea, and the captain, who had sacrificed family for greed, discovered that no amount of silver could save him from the justice that finally caught up with him.
Enjoy the video, and don't forget to subscribe.
Trace your finger along the map from Nassau toward the Windward Passage, and picture the year 1719 as the smell of rotting oak, boiling pine tar, damp hemp rigging, stale bilge water, sulfur, and wet salt drifted beneath low storm clouds while snapping canvas echoed through every shroud and stay. Among the countless violent stories of the Golden Age of Piracy, few were whispered with greater horror than the tale of a pirate captain who murdered his own brother for silver and command. Whether every detail survived unchanged remains uncertain, yet the brutal pattern reflected the ruthless reality of piracy between roughly 1716 and 1722, when blood outweighed family loyalty. The brothers sailed aboard a swift sloop displacing approximately 95 tons, measuring nearly 78 feet along the keel, with pronounced tumblehome supported by massive white oak futtocks fastened using hand-forged iron spikes almost 11 inches long. Every seam had been packed with twisted oakum before repeated careening coated the hull beneath layers of boiling pine tar that hardened into a waterproof shell against relentless seawater. 12 bronze carriage guns lined the weather deck, each cast from an alloy averaging nearly 88% copper and roughly 10% tin with traces of zinc and lead. Their powder charges relied upon grains composed of approximately 75% saltpeter, 15% charcoal, and 10% sulfur. When ignited, expanding gases accelerated solid iron roundshot with terrifying force, splintering oak planking into razor-sharp wooden fragments that often killed more sailors than the cannonball itself. Beneath articles of agreement promising equal shares and elected officers, jealousy quietly grew between the brothers as every captured prize increased suspicion instead of trust. The brothers had not always stood on opposite sides of greed. Years earlier, they had signed aboard a privateering expedition operating under letters of marque issued during wartime, believing lawful prize-taking would earn respectable fortunes without abandoning every connection to civilized society. When peace reduced commissions and wages collapsed, experienced seamen found themselves unemployed while merchant captains offered starvation pay. Piracy appeared to promise equality, democratic votes, and wealth measured in Spanish silver pieces of 8 stacked inside weathered sea chests reinforced with forged iron straps nearly 1/4 inch thick. Daily life aboard the sloop demanded relentless labor despite romantic legends. Pumps removed leaking seawater from the bilge, standing rigging required constant inspection for salt damage, deadies and lanyards needed tightening as hemp stretched beneath tropical humidity, while the capstan, mast partners, knees, and chain plates endured enormous structural stress whenever Atlantic squalls struck. During one successful cruise, a heavily laden merchant brig surrendered after only 2 broadsides. Her cargo included silver coin, indigo, sugar, tobacco, fine cloth, navigational instruments, and several locked chests whose combined value exceeded anything the brothers had previously imagined. According to pirate custom, the quartermaster supervised distribution according to the Articles of Agreement, compensating wounded crewmen before ordinary shares were counted. Yet the elder brother secretly believed his younger sibling had hidden additional coin beneath spare sailcloth stored close to the orlop. Suspicion spread through whispered accusations, sideways glances, and silent meals as every creak of the hull seemed to carry another rumor across the crowded deck, slowly transforming brotherhood into something far more dangerous. Days later, the sloop crossed unsettled Caribbean waters beneath heavy gray skies while long Atlantic swells rolled beneath her rounded hull, forcing every timber to flex with deep groaning sounds that experienced sailors recognized as the living voice of oak under strain. The captain ordered another inspection after discovering loose casks and disturbed ballast stones beneath the lower deck. There, hidden behind spare coils of 1-inch hemp cable and wrapped inside oilskin darkened by tar, several bags of Spanish silver were uncovered. No sailor could prove who had concealed them, yet the captain immediately accused his own brother before the assembled crew. The younger man denied every allegation, insisting another hand had planted the treasure to provoke division, but greed had already poisoned every judgment. Muskets were loaded with carefully measured powder charges before flintlocks showered sparks against hardened steel frizons, while boarding axes and cutlasses rested within easy reach beside the hatch. Rain struck the deck as the quartermaster demanded witnesses, reminding everyone that the Articles of Agreement required evidence before punishment. The captain ignored him. Years of shared childhood, dangerous voyages, and battles against merchant escorts disappeared beneath overwhelming ambition. Every officer understood that breaking pirate law threatened the fragile democracy keeping such crews united, yet few dared challenge a commander surrounded by loyal supporters. As lightning illuminated the rigging and black canvas snapped violently overhead, the captain slowly drew his broad cutlass forged from hardened steel nearly 34 inches long, its polished blade reflecting both the storm above and the terrified expression of the only brother he had left. What followed unfolded with shocking speed. Before any formal vote could be held, the captain struck, driving the heavy cutlass across his brother's shoulder before a second blow opened a fatal wound. Blood mixed instantly with rainwater flowing through the deck scuppers as horrified crewmen froze between obedience and outrage. The wounded man collapsed against the mainmast, gripping weathered oak stained by countless years of salt and tar, still attempting to deny the accusation while his strength disappeared. Several sailors reached for him, but armed supporters forced them back with leveled flintlock pistols' whos. 62 caliber lead balls could shatter bone at close range. The quartermaster shouted that no captain possessed authority to execute a pirate without the consent required by the Articles of Agreement, reminding everyone that their code existed precisely to prevent tyranny. His protest was answered with silence, broken only by thunder and the grinding of yards as the wind shifted. Below deck, the ship continued its relentless motion. Water seeped through, corked seams swollen by moisture, pumps creaked with every stroke, and iron fastenings binding the white oak futtocks strained beneath the twisting hull. The murdered sailor's body was dragged toward the rail, weighted with spare chain and broken iron ballast before being thrown into the gray Atlantic without prayer, marker, or grave. The sea closed over him within seconds, erasing every visible trace, but not the fear spreading through the surviving crew, who now understood that if a captain would murder his own brother for silver, no pirate aboard remained safe. The killing achieved exactly the opposite of what the captain intended. Instead of securing unquestioned authority, it shattered every remaining bond of trust aboard the sloop. Men who had once fought shoulder to shoulder during boarding actions now slept beside loaded pistols, wrapped their money belts beneath their shirts, and quietly counted which companions still honored the Articles of Agreement. Even routine sail handling became dangerous because hesitation replaced coordination. During a freshening gale, the topsail braces were trimmed, seconds too late. The yards slammed violently across the mast. Blocks exploded under enormous strain, and several inches of hemp rigging parted with a crack resembling musket fire. While repairing the damage, experienced shipwrights discovered hairline fractures spreading through heavily stressed futtocks where years of pounding seas and repeated careening had weakened the structure, despite layers of pine tar and carefully hammered oakum. Food spoiled rapidly inside damp casks, fresh water developed the sour taste of algae and decaying wood, and rats multiplied through the hold, feeding upon scattered grain. The captain grew increasingly paranoid, ordering repeated searches of hammocks, sea chests, powder lockers, and sail bins for imagined conspirators. Every bronze cannon was kept loaded with round shot and grape shot despite the obvious danger of accidental ignition, while powder barrels remained frighteningly close to open lanterns whose flames danced with every roll of the vessel. The same greed that had driven one brother to murder another now poisoned every decision, leaving the crew trapped aboard a floating prison drifting across an ocean where betrayal had become more deadly than any Royal Navy broadside. Within weeks, the surviving crew deposed the captain and delivered him to colonial authorities, where witnesses revealed the murder. The silver vanished forever, but the crime endured, proving that even among pirates, the betrayal of a brother carried a price no fortune could erase.